The galaxy's strongest warlords laughed at humans, calling them slow thinkers and primitive planners. They gathered in their grand halls of shining steel and glowing lights, and spoke of human fleets as nothing but toys to break. The aliens carried pride in their voices and scorn in their eyes. They said no human fleet could ever stand against their mighty armadas that stretched across the stars like oceans of fire. To them, humans were children wandering in the dark of space with sticks in their hand, while the rest of the galaxy carried blades of energy and cannons that could shatter moons. Generals of the great empires mocked human strategy in front of their own people. They pointed at the maps of war with laughter and compared human movements to games of children. A human plan was like a simple board game with rules so clear that even a child could predict the next move. They told stories of human battles where mistakes were made and losses were heavy. They painted humans as weak and clumsy and easy to break. Whispers spread across the stars as fast as light. Every traitor, every scout, every wanderer spoke the same words. Humanity was weak, predictable, blind to the truth of war. They were prey hiding in small corners of the galaxy, waiting for stronger hunters to find them, waiting for the day when their small colonies would fall under fire. Many believed that day was close and unstoppable. The aliens said humans feared the dark void, that their eyes were useless in the shadows, that their ships moved like clumsy birds trapped in storms. Alien commanders laughed at how humans spent hours planning battles that would collapse in minutes once real fire began. They said human admirals lacked courage, that their hearts shook when the sound of war drums echoed in the stars. But hidden behind the laughter, humans were silent. They were listening. They were learning. They did not shout back at the mockery. They did not cry out when the galaxy spat on their name. Instead, they studied. They remembered. They wrote every insult into the walls of their memory. They trained their minds and their soldiers in shadows, preparing not for one battle, but for the day when all the galaxy would rise against them. Alien generals saw human fleets as small, weak, and scattered. But in the silence of space, humans gathered secret knowledge. They learned the weakness of alien shields, the blind spots of their sensors, the timing of their jumps, the way their ships turned slow when caught in nebulous storms. Humans studied not only the ships, but also the minds of their enemies. They learned how alien pride made them careless, how arrogance blinded them to danger, how laughter made them deaf to warning. Every insult was a lesson. Every defeat was a school. Every loss was a seed planted in human hearts that grew into something the aliens never imagined. A cold patience, a quiet strength, a fire hidden under calm faces. The galaxy thought humans were blind to true war, but humans were staring deep into war's heart with eyes sharper than steel. In the colonies of Earth and beyond, secret training took place. Human fleets practiced silent movement in empty space. Their ships learned to vanish into darkness. Their pilots mastered patience, waiting for days without light or sound. Their commanders trained their minds in puzzles and deception, learning not to strike with strength but with silence, learning not to meet the enemy where they expected but where they feared. Alien spies saw pieces of this training but laughed again. They said humans were wasting time, that silence and patience had no place in war, that battles were won by fire and speed, that waiting was weakness. So the spies carried back reports of foolish human admirals wasting hours in silence drills, and the generals laughed even louder, never knowing that every report was a seed planted by humans themselves. Every piece of information was part of a mask designed to make the aliens blind. The galaxy believed humans had no future, yet humans had already written the future in secret books, in secret plans, in maps that stretched not only across stars but across the hearts of every soldier. They did not prepare for a fair fight. They prepared for something different, something the aliens had never faced before, a kind of war hidden in shadow. As alien fleets gathered strength, as they polished their war machines and sharpened their pride, humans moved like hunters in the underbrush, unseen but always watching, quiet but always waiting. Their silence was not fear. Their stillness was not weakness. It was the silence of predators who know the right moment has not yet come. The galaxy sang of alien power. The empires paraded their fleets in great shows of force. Beams of energy lit the skies as their warships roared through systems. But humans only watched, their eyes calm, their voices steady, their patience endless. The aliens did not see that every parade, every roar, every display was being measured and counted by human eyes. No detail missed, no weakness ignored. And when the generals stood before their councils, raising their voices and mocking the small blue planet and its scattered colonies, they believed they had seen everything. They believed their knowledge was perfect. They believed victory was already theirs. Yet in their pride, they forgot the oldest rule of the hunt. The prey that is quiet is not always prey. Sometimes it is a predator waiting in the shadows. The aliens thought they saw everything, yet they never noticed the trap already closing around them. The alien generals carried their laughter into their war councils, their voices echoing in halls carved from black stone and burning light. They believed their fleets were unstoppable walls of fire and steel. They told each other that the humans were only pretending to be patient, that their silence was nothing more than weakness hiding in shame. They promised quick victory and glorious parades after the humans were crushed. Yet while their pride filled the stars with noise, the humans filled the same stars with silence. Human ships did not move like alien ships. Alien warcraft roared across systems, leaving trails of light. Every jump, every fire, every movement was loud and proud. Their engines were thunder across the sky. But human ships moved differently. They drifted, they waited, they let gravity carry them. They darkened their lights and silenced their signals. They became shadows among shadows, unseen even when they were near. Alien sensors searched and found nothing but the empty void, not knowing that. Human eyes were watching every movement with calm patience. In the darkness of forgotten sectors, human admirals spoke in low voices. They studied the maps of alien patrols. They measured the arrogance in every path, the gaps left open because the aliens believed no enemy dared to enter. Humans studied not only where the fleets were, but where they were not. They built their plans around silence and shadow, a kind of war no alien mind understood, because no alien ever imagined weakness could become a weapon. There were young officers among the humans who had never fought against alien fleets, yet their eyes were sharp and their training endless. They spent days in cold silence, learning to breathe slow, learning to wait in the dark with no light and no sound. Their hearts did not fear the silence. Their minds grew sharper inside it. Alien soldiers hated the dark void because it made them restless and uneasy. But humans found peace there. It became their hunting ground, a place where silence made them stronger and patience gave them power. Alien generals began to grow impatient with their own laughter. They wanted action. They wanted to see human fleets break and burn. They ordered patrols to push deeper into human space. But those patrols began to vanish, small ships lost without a trace, scouts failing to return. At first the aliens laughed again, saying humans were too clumsy to fight. Perhaps they had destroyed themselves in accidents. But whispers began to spread that something was moving in the shadows, something silent and unseen. Every time an alien patrol vanished, human admirals said nothing. Their faces were calm, their plans moving forward. They knew the aliens were blind to the truth, that their pride made them refuse to believe. So humans pressed deeper into silence, planting traps in forgotten asteroids, hiding fleets inside nebulous storms, waiting with patience that no alien could match. For humans had carried patience for all of history, waiting in forests, in deserts, in caves, waiting for prey that did not even know it was hunted. There was one night in the cold stretch of space near the edge of human colonies when an alien fleet of 20 ships entered a sector they believed empty. They moved without caution, their engines bright, their signals loud, their commanders laughing about how they would find and break the small human ships hiding nearby. Yet as they moved deeper into the shadows, human ships were already there, silent, dark, unseen, their weapons quiet, their engines cold, waiting for the right moment. When the moment came, it was not a roar. It was silence that struck first. Alien ships found their signals cut, their communications dead, their sensors blind. In the dark void, their bright engines became beacons for weapons they could not see. The first strikes came like whispers, precise, sharp. One ship torn apart, then another. The aliens fired wildly into the dark, but they hit nothing. Their pride turned to fear as they realized they were surrounded by shadows they could not touch. Back in their grand halls, the generals did not believe the reports. They said it was lies. They said no human could move like that. No human could fight like that. Yet the losses grew, patrols vanished, fleets returned broken. Commanders spoke of ships they never saw, of weapons that came from silence, of fear that grew in the dark. The generals silenced them with anger, calling them cowards. Yet doubt had already entered their minds. Humans did not fight for pride. They did not fight to boast. They fought to survive. Every battle was a lesson. Every trap was a step towards something larger. The admirals did not waste their strength on small victories. Every strike was part of a larger design, a pattern invisible to the arrogant eyes of the aliens, but clear to the patient minds of the humans who had built it in silence for years. The galaxy still laughed on the outside, yet in hidden corners whispers began to grow. Traders spoke of alien fleets that vanished, of human ships that appeared from nowhere and returned to shadows. Some began to wonder if the humans were not weak, but something else, something different, something the galaxy had never faced before. But the generals silenced those whispers, raising their voices higher. Yet their laughter no longer carried the same strength. Behind it was the first shadow of fear. And still, the humans waited, their admirals watching the board, not as children playing, but as hunters preparing. The aliens thought war was a game of fire and noise, but for humans war was silence, patience, shadow, and strike, a lesson the galaxy had not yet learned, but would learn soon enough. The aliens believed their power made them safe, yet they never saw the net already weaving around them. Every move they made was measured. Every fleet they sent was guided. Every laugh they spoke was counted, and with each day the humans pulled the strings tighter, until the galaxy itself was part of the trap. And in the silence of human fleets drifting unseen, waiting with cold eyes and steady hands, the truth was clear. The aliens thought they were hunters, but in the dark, it was humans who hunted them. The alien generals still roared with laughter inside their war halls, their voices echoing against tall walls of metal and glass. They declared that the missing fleets were accidents. They said human tricks were nothing but shadows with no weight. They promised the galaxy that their empire was unshaken. The humans were only delaying their own destruction. Yet behind their laughter cracks had begun to form. Cracks of doubt that spread quietly like veins in glass. Human admirals listened to those declarations in silence. They never argued. They never shouted. They simply waited, because every word spoken by the alien generals was proof of arrogance. And arrogance was the shield humans wanted to break. Not with force, but with patience. And patience was the weapon humans carried better than anyone in the stars. In hidden stations carved into asteroids, human officers trained their crews for silence. They learned to drift without lights, to breathe inside ships as though they were part of the void itself. They learned to fire weapons without announcing themselves, to strike and vanish before the enemy could respond. This training was endless, tiring, and cold, but every human accepted it with steady hearts, because survival had always been written into their bones, and now that survival was sharpened into strategy. Alien fleets moved deeper into human territory, their ships brighter than suns, their movements loud enough for half a system to hear. They expected resistance to come in fire and chaos, but instead they found silence, systems abandoned, colonies evacuated, empty stations waiting. The aliens laughed again. They said humans had run away. They said there was nothing to fear. But they did not see that every empty system was another stone in the wall humans were building around them. Among the younger alien officers, whispers began to grow. They asked questions their generals hated. Why were the patrols vanishing? Why were the reports filled with fear? Why did silence follow every human encounter? Some began to sense that something was wrong, yet the generals silenced them, calling them weak, saying humans were nothing. Yet the seeds of doubt remained. One night in the deep black between systems, an alien fleet of 50 ships gathered. their commanders confident, their ships armed with firepower that could destroy entire colonies. They believed no human could stand against them. But hidden in the same dark void was a cluster of human ships. Not 50, not even half that number. Yet the humans did not tremble. They moved in silence, their ships drifting into place. Not as warriors rushing into battle, but as hunters closing in around prey that believed itself safe. The first strike was not fire but silence. Alien ships lost their communications again. Their long-range signals fell dead. Their sensors turned blind. Confusion spread. Commanders barked orders. Lights flashed. Engines roared, but nothing brought back their sight. In the darkness, humans moved like shadows. Their weapons fired once, twice, then vanished again. Alien ships turned to chase but found nothing. Their own bright engines gave them away, while humans remained hidden, unseen, and deadly. The battle was not quick. It stretched across hours, every strike tearing down alien pride, one piece at a time. Every loss leaving the generals more confused. When the fleet finally retreated, half of it was gone, the rest broken, scarred, limping away into the void. The galaxy heard whispers of this defeat. Though the generals tried to bury the truth, traitors, mercenaries, and travelers carried the story anyway. And with each retelling, the laughter of the aliens grew weaker. Meanwhile, humans were not celebrating. Their admirals knew the war was not won yet. They studied the maps again. They looked at the larger pattern. Every battle was not an end, but a piece of the net being woven. The aliens still believed they were in control, but every step they took pulled them deeper into the trap, and humans tightened it with quiet patience. In one council of human admirals, a young officer asked why they did not strike harder. Why not crush the alien fleets when they had the chance? The admiral answered with calm eyes, saying the aliens must believe they are still strong. Only then will they walk willingly into the cage we are building. Only then will their entire strength be gathered in one place, and only then will it be destroyed in a single night. A night the galaxy will never forget. The aliens, blind in pride, began preparing their greatest fleet. They said it was time to end the human problem forever. They called for every warship, every carrier, every weapon. They promised the galaxy a storm that would wipe out humanity in a single sweep. They believed humans would finally be erased, but they did not know that this call was the moment humans have been waiting for, the moment the trap would close. Still, the silence of humans unsettled even the strongest alien commanders. They wondered why no desperate cries came from human worlds, why no chaotic fleets tried to resist them, why humans always vanished before they struck. It was unnatural to them. It was terrifying in ways they would not admit, because in their hearts they began to understand that the silence was not weakness, it was design, and that design was leading them somewhere they could not yet see. The galaxy was watching now. Eyes from neutral systems, traitors, pirates, and wanderers all whispered of human silence, of alien pride, of battles that vanished in shadows. Some began to bet secretly that the humans would not fall. Others laughed nervously, unsure whether to believe in alien power or human patience. The stage was set. The actors were in place. Only the final curtain had yet to fall. And in the deepest silence of human fleets drifting through black space, the admiral spoke only one truth, that the aliens had built their fleets into a spear, but humans had turned the galaxy into a net. And soon the spear would strike not at prey, but into the very heart of that net. And when it did, there would be no escape. The aliens thought their empire was the hunter, but the humans knew the truth. The hunter was already in position, waiting in the shadows, and the prey was the one laughing loudest. The alien empire gathered its greatest fleet in the heart of their territory, a storm of warships brighter than any star, carriers stretching like floating cities, cruisers bristling with weapons, dreadnoughts armored like mountains. Every general called this the spear of their empire, a force so massive it could pierce any enemy and end any war. They boasted across the galaxy that humanity would finally be erased, that their worlds would burn, that no one would dare laugh at alien might again. The war halls were filled with speeches. Generals stood tall in gleaming armor, their voices booming across the chambers. They declared humans finished, They promised their fleets would return drenched in victory. The crowd cheered, banners waved, drums thundered. It was the sound of pride at its loudest. Yet pride is often loudest just before silence swallows it. Far from Empire's core, humans watched with quiet eyes. Their admirals studied the movement of the fleet. Their officers traced every route, every supply chain, every signal. They knew the spear was coming, and they knew it would not strike its scattered prey. Because humans had left the path open, humans had built the silence like walls, guiding the spear deeper and deeper into the place where the net was strongest. Colonies had been sacrificed, stations left behind. Humans had endured losses without cries, because they had always known the war was not about holding ground. It was about shaping the battlefield. And now the battlefield was ready, carved in shadows and silence, waiting for the Empire's pride to enter. Alien scouts moved ahead of the great fleet. They searched empty systems. They scanned for hidden dangers. Yet they found nothing, only ruins and silence. They reported back with laughter, saying humans were cowards, saying the way was clear, and the generals believed them, because belief in their own power was easier than doubt, easier than admitting fear. Among the humans, young soldiers whispered of the coming night. They asked if it was true that the greatest fleet ever built was sailing directly toward them. They asked if they could really stand against such fire. The admirals answered calmly. They said size does not matter when it cannot see, strength does not matter when it strikes in the wrong direction, and pride does not matter when it walks straight into a trap. The great fleet stretched across space like a chain of suns, every ship burning bright, their formations vast and complex, their signals loud enough for galaxies to hear. Yet brightness is not strength when shadows are patient. Loudness is not control when silence is waiting. The humans had learned this lesson long ago on their own world, hunting in forests, fighting in caves, surviving against predators stronger than them. And now they carried that old lesson into the stars. The aliens celebrated as they advanced. Generals feasted on their flagships. Music played. They spoke of crushing humans in a single blow, of teaching every world to fear their empire again. They spoke of easy victory. But hidden among them were whispers of unease. Some younger officers remembered the lost fleets, the patrols that never returned, the silent battles where ships vanished without sound. They wondered if the same silence was waiting for them too, yet their questions were drowned in the roar of pride. On the edges of human space, the trap tightened. Fleets that had been hidden in asteroid fields powered up in silence. Stations long thought abandoned came alive with faint signals. Minds floated in perfect stillness, waiting for the right moment. The humans had built not one fleet, but layers of silence, each designed to bleed the Empire's spear, to turn its sharp point into shattered fragments. The first brush came when alien ships entered a system filled with broken moons. They laughed at the ruins, calling it empty. Yet as their engines burned brighter, the rocks themselves came alive. Human ships rose from shadows, minds ignited, and silence turned into fire. Half the alien vanguard was gone before the generals understood it was a trap. The rest stumbled forward, blind and confused, searching for an enemy that had already vanished again. The generals raged. They ordered the fleet forward. They said humans could not escape once the spear reached the heart of their space. They said no trap could stop so many ships. Yet their voices trembled with a fear they tried to hide, because even in their rage they knew the truth. Every step forward cost them ships. Every system stolen was not victory, but another stone closing around them. Humans did not strike to destroy. They struck to guide. Every battle a whisper. Every ambush a hand, pushing the spear where it needed to go, deeper and deeper into the waiting net. And though the aliens still laughed in public, though their generals still spoke with thunder, in private they began to whisper, asking themselves if perhaps the silence was leading them and not the other way around. The galaxy watched with wide eyes. Traitors and wanderers spread rumors faster than light. They said the humans had vanished like ghosts, only to strike like lightning. They said the Empire's spear was too large, too heavy, too bright. They could not see what lay ahead. They said silence was stronger than noise, patience sharper than pride, and hunters always knew how to wait. At last, the Empire's spear reached the dark cluster of systems humans had abandoned at the start of the war. Here the stars were dim, the planets barren, nothing to feed or fuel a fleet so massive. Yet the aliens did not turn back. They could not. Their pride demanded they finish what they began. They sailed forward, burning brighter and louder, unaware that every ship was now exactly where the humans wanted them to be. In the shadows of those barren systems, human admirals gave a single order, a whisper carried across hidden fleets, across stations and mines, across soldiers waiting in silence. The order was not to strike yet, not to reveal themselves yet, but to hold steady, because the spear had entered the net, and once it was fully inside, there would be no escape. The Empire believed the night belonged to them, that their spear was unbreakable, but the night was never theirs. It had always belonged to humans, and the silence was about to speak in a voice the galaxy would never forget. The alien spear stretched through the dark systems like a storm that thought itself eternal. Ships glowing, engines roaring, weapons humming with endless power. The generals sat upon their bridges confident that no prey could resist them. They still spoke of humans as weak, slow, and clumsy. They still boasted of the glory to come. Yet beneath their words a thin shadow of doubt had begun to creep. Whispers of missing ships and strange echoes haunted the lower officers, but pride silenced there. Fears. The humans waited in silence, hidden across asteroids, behind dead moons, within abandoned stations. Fleets powered low so that not even the brightest alien scanners could see them. They watched the great armada crawl forward unaware of the net around it. Every human admiral knew the moment was near, the moment when the spear would break. They knew patience was their sharpest weapon, and silence was their shield. For days the alien spear pushed deeper into the cluster, yet they found no enemies standing openly, only ruins and silence. The generals mocked this silence, saying humans had already fled, saying they were too weak to face true power. The crews laughed, drums of pride thundered across the fleets, and yet that laughter rang hollow in the ears of some, because every day supplies ran shorter, fuel burned faster. The spear was powerful but heavy, and in the dark cluster there was nothing to sustain it. Human fleets listened to the alien songs of pride echoing across the stars. They recorded every word, every boast, and they smiled because they had not fled, they had not vanished. They had only hidden, waiting for the pride of the Empire to blind itself. And now the blindness was almost complete. The spear was deep inside the net, deeper than it had ever imagined possible. At last, the first whispers of the trap began to stir. Small alien ships that strayed from formation simply vanished. Scouts that moved ahead did not return. Signals sent into the void were never answered. The generals raged. They blamed human tricks, but they did not yet see the truth. They thought the spear unbreakable, and so they pressed on. Then the silence shifted, and the trap began to awaken. One fleet of humans struck from behind, sliding out of shadows like ghosts. Their weapons cut through the alien supply lines. Transports carrying fuel and food exploded into fragments. Repair ships were torn apart. The aliens turned to chase, but by the time they arrived, the humans were gone again, vanished into silence, leaving only wreckage drifting through space like shattered bones. The aliens shouted that it was only harassment. The humans were too weak to face the full might of the spear. Yet in private, their engineers whispered that without supplies, the fleet could not endure. Their officers worried that fuel would run out, that weapons would fall silent, and that the spear would collapse under its own weight. Still, the generals ignored them, blinded by the need to finish what they had promised, to bring human worlds to ruin. Human fleets struck again, this time not with small raids, but with sudden ambushes, swarms of ships rising from asteroid fields, mines igniting like hidden stars, shadows erupting into fire. Alien squadrons were torn apart before they could even form ranks. And then once again silence returned, leaving the survivors trembling, unsure of where the enemy had gone, unsure of when the next strike would come. Fear began to spread through the alien crews. Soldiers whispered that the silence was alive. The humans were not prey, but hunters, invisible hunters that bled the spear one cut at a time. Morale crumbled as more ships vanished. as more signals ended in static. The spear that once boasted of being unstoppable now bled with every step forward, every day slower, every night darker. The human admirals watched with steady eyes. They knew fear was their ally, confusion was their blade, and patience was the chain that would hold the enemy. They gave no speeches of pride, only quiet orders: strike and vanish, bleed them slowly, never show them the full strength, keep them blind, keep them guessing, until the silence itself became heavier than their pride. Among the aliens, the first cracks appeared in unity. Some generals demanded retreat. Others demanded they push forward. Their voices clashed. Orders contradicted each other. Ships drifted in confusion. The once perfect spear began to bend under the weight of its own pride, and humans pressed the pressure deeper, cutting another link, bleeding another squadron, whispering across the stars that the net was nearly closed. Then came the night of fire, when human fleets revealed only a glimpse of their true strength. Not one ambush, but many at once. Across 5 systems, the silence exploded with hidden fleets. Asteroids split open to reveal missile silos. Dead moons awoke with batteries of guns. Stations long thought abandoned lit up with fire, and alien ships burned in every direction. Thousands lost in moments. The spears staggered as if struck by a hammer, and for the first time the generals knew fear. They ordered full pursuit, rage driving them deeper. Yet the humans had already vanished once again, leaving behind fields of wreckage glowing in silence, leaving behind the smell of defeat. The aliens raged and cursed. They screamed of vengeance, but their voices carried no strength because they knew they were being herded, guided like prey into the place of final slaughter. The galaxy watched in awe as reports spread. Stories told of the greatest fleet in history stumbling like a blind beast, cut down by shadows, bled by silence. Rumors whispered that the Empire had misjudged humanity. The humans were not weak, not blind, not slow, but they were hunters older than war itself. And now the hunters had chosen their prey. The human admirals gathered in secret, their maps glowing with the path of the spear. Every step had been predicted, every cut planned, and now the time was near, the time when the spear would be locked inside the net with no escape. And when that moment came, silence would break into a storm unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens still believed they marched toward victory, still believed pride would carry them through, but deep in their hearts fear gnawed, because silence is louder than any voice when it waits too long, and the humans had waited long enough. Suspense hung heavy across every world, across every ship, across every shadow. The trap was almost closed, and when it closed, the galaxy would finally see the truth of human strategy, the truth that had been hidden in silence all along. The alien spear still moved forward, yet its shine was dimmer than before. Its engines roared, but the sound was hollow. Its crew shouted, but their voices trembled. The generals still spoke of victory, but their eyes carried shadows, for they could feel it, the silence pressing in from every side like a weight that grew heavier with every system they crossed. The humans were patient. They did not rush. They did not reveal everything they had. They only pressed the knife deeper, one cut at a time, one shadow at a time, until the spear bled with every step forward, and the aliens felt the fear spread through their ranks like a sickness they could not cure. Across dead stars, human ships lay waiting, their hulls dark, their power hidden, their weapons cold like predators crouching in tall grass. They watched as the alien fleets drifted deeper into the cluster. Every move calculated, every turn predicted. The admirals had drawn maps not of stars, but of traps, and now the prey had walked into the final circle. Alien scouts were sent out in desperation, but none returned. Their signals ended in silence, their ships swallowed by the dark, their screams never reaching home. The crews whispered that the humans had devoured them, that the silence itself was alive and hungry. The whispers spread faster than any order, faster than any speech, and no general could stop it. Fuel ran thin, supplies fell low. Ships that were once proud symbols of the Empire now drifted tired and broken, their crews staring at empty stores, their weapons beginning to falter. The engineers warned that soon engines would fail, soon guns would fall quiet, yet the generals pressed on, pride still burning like a fire that refused to die. even as it consumed the wood beneath it. The humans struck again, but this time not in small raids this time, not in scattered ambushes. They struck in patterns precise and cruel, striking one wing of the spear, then vanishing, striking the rear, then fading into silence, striking the center, and leaving it bleeding. The aliens tried to respond, but their formations were shattered, their unity broken, their voices clashing, their orders tangled. The galaxy listened to the reports that slipped through channels, stories of the mighty spear crumbling, stories of alien crews begging for orders, begging for safety. Rumors spread that the humans had trapped them completely, that the spear was no longer a weapon, but a beast caught in chains, and no one dared to deny it, for the evidence floated in the wreckage that scattered across space. Human admirals watched with calm eyes, their silence unbroken, their patience unshaken, for they knew the time was near, the time when silence would turn to thunder, when shadows would become fire. The trap was almost closed, and once it closed, nothing would escape. The final moves were subtle. First, the rear of the spear was cut off, human fleets rising from hidden fields of rock and striking with precision. Transports exploded, repair ships shattered, and the rear line was gone. Second, the wings of the spear were broken, ambushes tearing them apart, until only fragments remained, drifting powerless in the dark. Third, the front of the spear was blinded, human ships sowing mines across paths and filling the way with burning wreckage until no clear road remained. The generals raged. They shouted that the Empire had never been defeated. They swore that pride would not fail. They demanded their ships press forward in the fire, yet forward was no longer open, backward was no longer safe, and every side was filled with silence. Wait and strike. They had led their people into the heart of a storm, and now there was no path out. The humans waited one final night, holding their fire, holding their fleets, the silence thicker than ever before. Alien crews sat in terror, staring into the void, hearing whispers in every shadow, believing death was waiting just outside the hull. They could not sleep, they could not eat, they could only wait, and that waiting broke them more than any battle could. Then the storm came, the trap closed with fire from every side. Human fleets surged from the dark like endless waves, their weapons igniting the stars' minds. Detonated asteroids, erupted missiles, and lasers filled the void in all directions. The spear was crushed between walls of fire. Ships exploded one after another, their screams echoing through broken channels. Chaos swallowed the once perfect formation, and the pride of the Empire shattered in a single breath. Alien generals tried to rally their crews, but their voices were drowned in the storm. Ships ignored orders, some fleeing, some firing blindly, some surrendering without a word. The unity of the spear was gone, replaced by panic, replaced by despair. Every alien who once laughed at human weakness now saw human strength in its truest form, the strength of patience, the strength of silence, the strength of traps woven so tight that no prey could escape. The galaxy watched as the mighty spear broke apart, its fragments scattering into the void, its glory gone, its future burned. Whispers spread across worlds, whispers that humans had done what no one else could, that humans had destroyed the strongest fleet the Empire had ever built, that humans had turned silence into the deadliest weapon of all. The human admirals spoke little, they gave no speeches, they claimed no crowns, they only watched as the wreckage drifted, as the silence returned, not the silence of waiting this time, but the silence of victory, a silence that told every star, every world, every species the humans were not blind, they were not weak, they were not prey, they were hunters who had waited long and struck true. The trap had closed, and the spear was gone, yet the story was only beginning, for the galaxy now knew a truth it had long denied, and that truth would echo far beyond the ruins of one fleet. Suspense in the spear was broken, yet the Empire still lived, and the humans knew this was only the first battle. The storm was not finished, and the galaxy would soon learn how far humans were willing to go. The alien spear still moved forward, yet its shine was dimmer than before. Its engines roared, but the sound was hollow. Its crew shouted, but their voices trembled. The generals still spoke of victory, but their eyes carried shadows, for they could feel it, the silence pressing in from every side like a weight that grew heavier with every system they crossed. The humans were patient. They did not rush. They did not reveal everything they had. They only pressed the knife deeper, one cut at a time, one shadow at a time, until the spear bled with every step forward, and the aliens felt the fear spread through their ranks like a sickness they could not cure. Across dead stars, human ships lay waiting, their hulls dark, their power hidden, their weapons cold like predators crouching in tall grass. They watched as the alien fleets drifted deeper into the cluster. Every move calculated, every turn predicted. The admirals had drawn maps not of stars, but of traps, and now the prey had walked into the final circle. Alien scouts were sent out in desperation, but none returned. Their signals ended in silence, their ships swallowed by the dark, their screams never reaching home. The crews whispered that the humans had devoured them, that the silence itself was alive and hungry. The whispers spread faster than any order, faster than any speech, and no general could stop it. Fuel ran thin, supplies fell low. Ships that were once proud symbols of the Empire now drifted tired and broken, their crews staring at empty stores, their weapons beginning to falter. The engineers warned that soon engines would fail, soon guns would fall quiet, yet the generals pressed on, pride still burning like a fire that refused to die, even as it consumed the wood beneath it. The humans struck again, but this time not in small raids, this time not in scattered ambushes. They struck in patterns precise and cruel, striking one wing of the spear, then vanishing, striking the rear, then fading into silence, striking the center, and leaving it bleeding. The aliens tried to respond, but their formations were shattered, their unity broken, their voices clashing, their orders tangled. The galaxy listened to the reports that slipped through channels, stories of the mighty spear crumbling, stories of alien crews begging for orders, begging for safety. Rumors spread that the humans had trapped them completely, that the spear was no longer a weapon, but a beast caught in chains, and no one dared to deny it, for the evidence floated in the wreckage that scattered across space. Human admirals watched with calm eyes, their silence unbroken, their patience unshaken, for they knew the time was near, the time when silence would turn to thunder, when shadows would become fire. The trap was almost closed, and once it closed, nothing would escape. The final moves were subtle. First, the rear of the spear was cut off, human fleets rising from hidden fields of rock and striking with precision. Transports exploded, repair ships shattered, and the rear line was gone. Second, the wings of the spear were broken, ambushes tearing them apart, until only fragments remained drifting powerless in the dark. Third, the front of the spear was blinded, human ships sowing mines across paths and filling the way with burning wreckage until no clear road remained. The generals raged. They shouted that the Empire had never been defeated. They swore that pride would not fail. They demanded their ships press forward in the fire, yet forward was no longer open, backward was no longer safe, and every side was filled with silence. Wait and strike. They had led their people into the heart of a storm, and now there was no path out. The humans waited one final night, holding their fire, holding their fleets, the silence thicker than ever before. Alien crews sat in terror, staring into the void, hearing whispers in every shadow, believing death was waiting just outside the hull. They could not sleep, they could not eat, they could only wait, and that waiting broke them more than any battle could. Then the storm came, the trap closed with fire from every side. Human fleets surged from the dark like endless waves, their weapons igniting the stars' mines. Detonated asteroids, erupted missiles, and lasers filled the void in all directions. The spear was crushed between walls of fire. Ships exploded one after another, their screams echoing through broken channels. Chaos swallowed the once perfect formation, and the pride of the Empire shattered in a single breath. Alien generals tried to rally their crews, but their voices were drowned in the storm. Ships ignored orders, some fleeing, some firing blindly, some surrendering. Without a word, the unity of the spear was gone, replaced by panic, replaced by despair. Every alien who once laughed at human weakness now saw human strength in its truest form, the strength of patience, the strength of silence, the strength of traps woven so tight that no prey could escape. The galaxy watched as the mighty spear broke apart, its fragments scattering into the void, its glory gone, its future burned. Whispers spread across worlds, whispers that humans had done what no one else could, that humans had destroyed the strongest fleet the Empire had ever built, that humans had turned silence into the deadliest weapon of all. The human admirals spoke little, they gave no speeches, they claimed no crowns, they only watched as the wreckage drifted, as the silence returned, not the silence of waiting this time, but the silence of victory, is silence that told every star, every world, every species the humans were not blind, they were not weak, they were not prey, they were hunters who had waited long and struck true. The trap had closed, and the spear was gone, yet the story was only beginning, for the galaxy now knew a truth it had long denied, and that truth would echo far beyond the ruins of one fleet. Suspense in the spear was broken, yet the Empire still lived, and the humans knew this was only the first battle. The storm was not finished, and the galaxy would soon learn how far humans were willing to go.